En esta nueva edición de Entrevistas Metal Index conocerás a uno de los mejores bateristas del metal moderno mundial, como lo es Anup Sastry. Gran charla donde se repasa un poco de su historia, trabajos de estudio, importantes colaboraciones con reconocidos músicos de talla internacional y también de su actualidad. Sin más preámbulo, comenzamos.
Sean todos bienvenidos a otro episodio de Entrevistas Metal Index. Mi nombre es Washington Ibáñez y en el día de hoy tenemos la oportunidad de estar listos y presentar a uno de los mejores bateristas a nivel mundial y que siempre está a la vanguardia del mejor heavy metal moderno. Hoy en Entrevistas Metal Index tenemos a Anup Sastry. Hey, what's going on, dude? How you doing?
How's it going, man? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm so excited to having you here and making this happen. We are so grateful to make this conversation here, especially for me, because I used to play drums when I was a kid, and I know how hard it is. But how did you become a professional drummer? How did you learn to play drums?
Yeah, thanks again for having me. This is awesome. Really appreciate your time. But so I started when I was in middle school. I used to play the clarinet, and my best friend at the time played the drums, and he kind of inspired me to start practicing the drums a little bit on my own. So that's how I got into the drums, was at a pretty young age. But I didn't it wasn't like something I pursued professionally until years later, maybe out of high school, 18, 19 years old. That's when I decided to go to school for music theory just for a couple of years, and then also go to night school, to a trade school for audio engineering. And so I don't really think I took drumming as like the first thing to be professional. It was more like I just wanted to do music and audio engineering while I was also still playing drums. And then that kind of slowly led into the whole YouTube thing, doing YouTube covers, and then that kind of picked up into touring and playing with a bunch of bands.
What was your first metal band that you listened to?
What was the first metal band I listened to?
Yeah.
Oh, I think the heaviest metal band that I really got into, I'll put it that way because I don't remember the first one that I listened to. The first band that got me into heavy metal was definitely Slipknot, for sure. Joey Jordison.
Yeah, for sure.
His huge kit, just seeing him in magazines and stuff, and just I was obsessed with their first two albums. That was like the first heavy music, and those first two albums are like heavy.
Yeah, absolutely. When I remember when I was 14, 15 years old, my favorite drummer was him, Jordison, Lars Ulrich, of course, from Metallica, David Sylveriak, ex-Korn, and then when I discovered more music, I discovered Tool years after, and Danny Carey became my favorite drummer. I think he's awesome, his understanding. Before,
same.
Korn, Deftones.
Yeah, Korn and Tool were really big for me as well. That came like after Slipknot for sure, but Korn back in the days of David on drums, and then Danny Carey and his whole setup, his kit made out of cymbals.
Yeah, that's
Anyways.
that's a star. That stars that kind of strange things on his drums. Before continuing, invito a la gente a que se suscriba a nuestro canal en YouTube. También nos puedes seguir a través de Spotify, Google Podcast, si prefieres escucharnos en Player FM, y también nos puedes seguir a través de Twitter, Instagram y Facebook. Puedes también seguir a Mr. Anup Sastry en YouTube, Instagram, Twitter. Él también tiene su página web que es www.anupsastry.com. This is something curious about sponsors. As professional drummer, now how many sponsors have you have? I mean, this is some kind of requirement to get a sponsor, or someone make the contact to call you, hey, to the person who wants to sponsor?
Yeah, so a lot of it happened from touring a lot. You know, I was constantly touring with bands and stuff, and always on the road, so that really helped back then. I feel like the focus that companies put on to sponsor an artist now has kind of shifted from not so much the live performance, but more like social media and how active they are on social media and that kind of thing. But back then it was kind of like a balance of both, you know, like, are you performing, are you also on social media? And you know, I happen to be doing both, so that really helped. But the companies that I'm currently with are Tama Drums, Mino Cymbals, Evans Drumheads, and Radom Shoes.
At what age you get your first sponsor?
What age? I honestly forget the year. Mm-hmm. I think it was 2012. But it was the end of 2012, and that was Mino. Mm. So they contacted. Well, I contacted them through one of my best friends, Alex Rudinger. He actually helped me out with that too, and also Matt Halpern at the time. So they kind of helped put me in touch with Mino, and that happened towards the end of 2012. I remember I was touring with Jeff Loomis at the time, and we had a European tour. That was the third tour I had done with Jeff, and I remember getting like my first set of Mino cymbals to use on that tour, and it was super exciting, and yeah, been with them ever since.
This is so important to say, because you, as a high-heart fan of heavy metal, most of your records have progressive elements. What is your inspiration to make such a great music?
Well, a lot of musical influence. I just really like really large wall of sound, kind of powerful sounds, I guess. So, you know, regardless of if it's metal or not, like, I like a lot of soundtracks and stuff like that, you know, like that have like that kind of tell a story with chord progressions and just keep flowing, that kind of stuff. But then when it comes to metal, you know, like a lot of really heavy stuff, like Meshuggah, Periphery. I think I got into all that kind of stuff a little bit late. You know, like, I grew up on, like I said, Slipknot, but then later on came bands like Children of Bodom, Opeth, Behemoth, all these other like metal bands, right? It wasn't until like 2018, 2019 where I started to actually get more into the whole groove metal kind of like aspect of that subgenre, you know? So bands like Periphery and Tesseract and all that kind of stuff. So
yeah, I would like to say that Meshuggah, Periphery, Born of Osiris, Animal has leaders, After the Burial, I like After the Burial a lot, are the most important progressive and gent bands right now, in my opinion.
Yeah,
your production and your work are way beyond from North America. I mean, you have produced and worked with so many people in United States, like Intervals, Scale the Summit, Hydros Ramos, Monuments, and especially there are two people which are the most important in your career: Murray Freeman, ex-Megadeth guitarist, and David Townsend with Empath album in 2019. How was all the process to work with those guys?
It was, with Marty and Devin, it was pretty amazing. You know, I feel like I learned a lot working with them, because clearly, you know, they had been doing stuff for years and years and years. So going and working on another album for them wasn't anything new. And it wasn't new for me either, but it was new working on that large of a scale, you know, in the studios that we recorded in and stuff. And it was just such a really nice learning experience. Both of them are amazing human beings, like just really fun. And I don't know, when you get to be in the studio with them and kind of see, like, get a tiny little glimpse as to how their brains work with music, it's just like, you know, like kind of inspiring, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I really, it's still a little bit surreal that those experiences happened, you know?
Yeah, I think it was a dream made true after working with them. This is another collaboration that I keep it in mind because Jesus and I were from Venezuela. You joined with Enrique Marquez, a cappellist, to make two EPs, Nora and Balala EP, last year. How did you feel to work with Enrique? Is there something special about these recordings?
Oh man, he's just such a like nice human being. That's like the only way to describe it, you know? Like he's just so like open with his knowledge, and I mean, because he has so much experience and knowledge himself, you know, with like his sector of the music industry, that working on music together was really cool. But at the same time, I think it was more it was better because I feel like I made a good friend out of the experience, you know? Such a nice guy. The music is awesome, you know, like the second EP was really fun because I not only played drums on it, but you know, I also had the opportunity to mix that as well. So working with him on that front, you know, and he knows what he wants out of his music too, so he's a very easy artist to work with, you know? So yeah, that entire experience with him was awesome, and hopefully I get to work with him again in the future.
That sounds fucking awesome, that album. And I would like to say that Enrique is one of the best musicians in Venezuela right now. There is another album that is so important on gent community, Phronesis of Monuments. What does this album mean to you?
That album is actually really unique to me because I had already left the band prior to recording the drums for that album. So, you know, I had toured with the band for a short amount of time. I was only in it for maybe a year and a half or so, something like that. And I really wanted to make it work, but unfortunately just, you know, their vision for things and just, it was amicable, you know, like I think they knew what they wanted, I knew what I wanted, and it just didn't line up, which was totally fine, right? And what was really nice about that recording drums for that record is that when I left the band, I was a little bit disappointed that I didn't get to record with them or do anything with them, you know? And then a couple months later, they ended up reaching out to me and saying, hey, can you play drums on these songs? And I was like, whoa, that's actually really cool, you know? So that album, like, was nice to be on because of that, you know? Like, it just was a nice way to be like, okay, cool. Like, I had a part in that group for a short period of time, and then that's it. We went our ways, you know?
Yeah, it happens. Anup, you are drummer, session worker, engineer, producer at the same time. How the brain may work in a situation when you are working in a solo album, like Illuminate or Bloom, for example. Is easier for you make the whole process by yourself?
Yeah, I think that's one of the main reasons why I like writing my own music, because it is just myself, and you know, it kind of gives me my full creative control to just like do my thing and get what I need to get out of my head, you know? So I really do enjoy that process. For my last EP, I really liked working with vocalists. So I think that's something I'm going to continue doing moving forward. But that was a lot of fun, you know, and I always wanted to have vocals on my material. It's just that in the past, I literally just couldn't afford to pay all the vocalists, you know? So everything was instrumental, right? Until my last EP, when I finally said, okay, I'm going to set aside a budget to work with other people now, you know, and I think that really helped. So I'm excited to explore that process more. So it won't be totally solo moving forward.
And what is the process that you like the most? Playing or recording? Or mixing or producing?
Producing, for sure.
Why?
Yeah. I don't know. It's just, for me, it's just the most fun and most creative part. You know, like with mixing, there's this stress of like, okay, it has to really sound a certain way. You're like really trying to outdo maybe a previous mix or something. With the drumming is a very physical thing. So it's like, okay, you know, I got to make sure I'm practicing to be able to perform these parts properly, especially if I'm doing a video. The writing process is also fun. That's probably the second most fun part of it, but that's also stressful because there's a lot of really heavy ups and downs, you know, like you have moments where you're like, all the ideas are coming out. You have moments where you just feel totally blocked and you don't know what to do, right? And it's hard to kind of re-engineer your mind in those moments to get past those. Whereas with the production part, it's just like, okay, everything is pretty much there, you know, like it's a very solid skeleton. You're just kind of like, it's like a coloring book, you know?
Yeah, for sure. Anup, any future project that you're working with now, or any album, any collaboration of mine?
Yes, I started a new project with an ex-band member of mine, really close friend too, and him and another really good friend of ours. We started a project called Dearest, and we're actually going to be hopefully releasing our first single at the end of August, and then followed by a full EP, and we'll see how that goes. But that's pretty much it as far as music projects go. That and my own EP. I'm working on another one. So,
oh, cool, really cool. Anup, it was super cool having you today. Saying thank you so much for your music. It's so important to people like you, a fantastic musician, the heavy metal scene. Your job makes us proud, because we would say that heavy metal will never dies ever. Any words before saying goodbye this time?
Thank you for those kind words, and thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. That's awesome.
Yeah, thank you so much, and thank you again for taking this time with us here in the channel Metal Index. Y para ustedes, no se olviden suscribirse a nuestro canal en YouTube. También nos pueden seguir en Facebook, Instagram y Twitter. Y si prefieres oírnos, también lo puedes hacer a través de Spotify, Google Podcasts y Player FM. También puedes seguir a Anup Sastry a través de Instagram, Facebook y Twitter. Él también tiene un perfil en YouTube, visítalo, y también su página web en www.anupsastry.com. Thank you again, Mr. Anup. See you then.
Thank you. See you, man.